Hello everyone, going out for a ride on my 21st birthday on my Hyosung GT 250R. So, this being my first video with my voice actually riding, I guess we should be happy about the kickoff, huh? Well, anyway, the reason I decided to start making videos was because when I first got this bike, I could not find anything on it. Like, I'm trying to sit here and do stupid things like change spark plugs, and everything on this bike just felt like it was ass backwards from the beginning. So that's what made it real difficult. Anyway, I would say that this bike, it's a good bike. It's definitely a good starter bike. I'm within my first month and a half, 2 months riding, and I've honestly enjoyed it. Aesthetically, I would say that's probably the biggest strength of the bike for a 250, because everyone I've talked to has just absolutely loved it. But there's definitely some negatives, but then again, I've only rode alongside a Ninja 250. I've never actually been on one, so it's hard to say. But I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really think any of the 250s are that great of bikes, in my opinion. I'm already looking to get something a little bit bigger, because quite frankly, these bikes, they're not meant to really go fast. You know, people tell you that they're rated to go 120 miles an hour, but that's false. I mean, I don't know what 250 is going 120. You're lucky if I get up to 90 on this bike most of the time. And I mean, I'm a bigger guy. I am 6'1", about 220, I would say. But even so, I don't see it just because of my weight that the bike would go another 30 miles an hour faster. I don't see how that would be a thing. But I guess it's certainly possible. But nah, so far though, like I said, it's been a great starter bike. All the things you'd want in a bike, this thing has. Definitely has some good brakes. The suspension's fine. The only complaint would be the power, but again, that's the point of getting a 250 and not a 600. But definitely people love looking at the bike. So as a review standpoint, I would say that, you know, for people that don't know anything about bikes, you know, girls, fucking people like that you just know that, like, you know, your friends that are dumb, you know, people that don't know anything about bikes, they'll look at this bike and be like, well, this thing is beautiful, but they have no idea that it's only a 250, you know. But hey, look, there's a cop. But so far, I have to say that I do love sports riding. You know, going fast is definitely cool. And riding around's okay too. Definitely saves gas. I've been using it to go to work back and forth when it's nice out. But everyone this summer so far has told me not to upgrade to a bigger bike, because they say that you should have your first 250 for at least the whole summertime, which sucks, because honestly I'm tired of it already. I mean, me personally, if I could go back, I don't even know if I would have gotten a 250, to be honest, because I felt like I could have rode a bigger bike a day or two after I actually started riding my own bike. Because, you know, like, you know, with all the 600s these days on sports bikes, like if you're into sport riding, they got bikes like, obviously like the Gixxer 600, you got the Kawasaki 636, stuff like that, you know, has the A and the B modes, so, you know, cuts, you know, almost half the horsepower. Therefore, you know, you can ride it like that for a while, get used to it, and then you unleash it. It's kind of the route I think I wish I went. especially being a bigger guy and all. Because, you know, this thing, it just feels like it has almost no power band. It always gets stuck when it's not warmed up in neutral. But I would say it doesn't really have a power band like you'd feel on another bike. I mean, I've been riding dirt bikes all my life, and you know, they got a little bit more kick to them. This thing ain't got nothing, you know. You can give this thing full power and snap the clutch and you barely feel the bike come up. So but definitely a fun bike, especially, like, you know, if for a lot of people out there, you know, that don't really want to go fast but still, you know, wants to look cool. It's a good bike, because I would say that the bike, it does basic things that you would need a bike to do. It's definitely a safe bike. Feels very stable from side to side. I probably need to check my tire pressure actually, but the bike itself feels okay. People, I know a lot of reviews I've seen on the bike, they say that it feels like a complete piece of junk. I don't know about that. You know, sometimes the gear changing is a little rough, but I mean, that's on any bike. I mean, I know I was looking at a review on the 2015 GSX-R 600, and it had the same problem. So, I mean, it's just really a matter of what oil you're using. I would say, you know, haven't actually even done my own oil change on this bike yet since the previous owner. Probably should get on that. I got the oil filters and the oil, just haven't actually done the work yet. But from the standpoint of it feeling cheap, I don't necessarily agree with that. And I've rode a couple bikes. I gotta say that the engine also, in my opinion, sounds better than most 250s that I've heard. It definitely sounds better than the Ninja 250. And it's not like I'm comparing an old-ass 250 to this bike, which is a 2010. I'm comparing, you know, somebody that has a 2008 to this 2010. So it's basically the same year. Not much changes in 2 years normally. But honestly, I think this bike does sound better, so that's one thing. But no 250 really sounds good. It's not going to give you that normal sport bike sound. They're all kind of off. They sound more like a 250 dirt bike almost, in my opinion. Because, like I said, I used to ride a lot of dirt bikes. It's really what it sounds like. But again, nobody knows the difference. That unless if they know about bikes, then, you know. But it's not a bike that sounds awesome by any means. And honestly, so far, like I said, people say this bike feels cheap, but at the end of the day, I mean, I got over 7,000 miles on it, which, you know, is not a crazy amount, but it's enough. And the bike still feels fine. It runs well. I know that the one problem I would say I had is the previous owner did let the bike sit, which kind of was a big issue, more because of the fact of you know, normal maintenance, really more than anything. You know, the guy never told me when I first bought it that the bike was, in quote unquote, losing power. But the guy was an idiot, because the reason he was losing power is because I asked him. I was like, when was the last time the plugs were changed? And he was like, oh, well, the plugs were never changed. Well, obviously that's why you're losing power, because one of the plugs are probably bad. I mean, that's not rocket science. So anyway, I bought some Iridium plugs, which were a pain in the ass to get, but I did get them. We installed them correctly. I put some new spark plug caps on the bike, you know, just to make the grounding a little bit better, or whatever you call it. So I did that. I actually fixed the handlebar, because the previous owner, again, never told me that the handlebar was, like, broken. But then after I took it off, I realized it really wasn't broken. It needed to be screwed back on, because these clip-on handlebars are basically screws, which I didn't really understand why they would make it like that. But again, it's a Korean company. It's a Hyosung. So the thing is you know, they're not fully there yet, obviously. But I have to say, for a fuel-injected bike, it feels great. I'm glad I don't have a carburetor, to be honest with you, because I know more of the bigger, even the bigger bikes don't really have carbs anymore. So you don't have to deal with cleaning it out and all that. But one thing I can say though is every once in a while the computer on this bike, the fuel injector seems to have some problems. But to be honest with you, once I replaced the battery, I didn't have problems anymore. So I'm assuming there wasn't enough amps getting to the actual computer on the bike itself to tell the fuel injector to do what it has to do, and therefore, you know, it was saying fuel injection. Again, not really something I was able to find many solutions on, but you know, had to figure it out for myself. The battery was definitely bad, and it was obvious, because every time I basically went to go ride the bike, I knew it because the bike started to, the bike wouldn't start most of the time, and then if it did start, it would be saying fuel injection right here, or FI I should say. The FI light would start blinking, so I was like, oh no, I hope I don't have fuel injector problems, because that's a big issue. The fuel injectors for most bikes normally aren't too cheap. You're really looking in the $300 range, which, you know, isn't that much money for a part, but however, I only paid $1,500 for the bike in the first place, so I wasn't trying to spend another $300 on a fuel injector, because at that point, you know, that's a steep price to pay for a bike like this. But like I said, ton of fun. Thinking about riding it out up to the Catskills this week. Another complaint I would say actually I have about the bike, because the bike does not have a radiator, it is air cooled. So therefore, a lot of times the issue with it is that it does warm up in traffic a little bit, which for a while wasn't bad because it was cool out anyway. So, you know, like right now, it's not cool out. It's, you know, got warm. So now the thing is since it's warm, now the bike just gets hot, which it got hot during the, don't get me wrong, it got warm during the cold too, which was a nice thing, because, you know, sometimes it was freezing out, and, you know, a little bit of warmth from the motor helped out the rider, I would say. But yeah, that's that would basically be it for the review of pros and cons. Like I said, without a doubt in my mind, I've seen basically every 250, and I don't know if I've seen a 250 that looks better, to summarize. But I would definitely say that it's what you would expect for a 250. Not a lot of power. It's a weird class. It's a very strange class in my opinion, because I honestly don't know anybody that's trying to get into sport bikes. I don't know how long you would want to have one of these bikes for. I understand the whole point of starting and stuff like that, but this bike, for example, is almost just as heavy as a 600. So the only difference is the power. So people are like, oh yeah, we got to get used to cornering and stuff like that, so when you get a bigger bike, it'll be easier. But again, I don't know how that makes any sense, because bigger bikes, regardless, still have the same weight for the most part. So it's not like the weight's going to change, just the power in and out of turns, I guess, would change. But I mean, that's up to the rider's discretion. I mean, if you don't ride like an idiot, or you know how to ride, period, then reality is, you know, a bigger bike shouldn't be that much of an issue. But okay, that's going to be the end of the video of video 1. And I'm going to go start getting ready for my 21st birthday tonight. Well, I'm already 21, turned last night at 12. But I will, I'll be posting videos more often, as much as I can, especially when I'm fixing things. I wish I had the camera when I actually fixed the handlebar, because that's definitely would have been useful for anybody fixing it, or trying to attempt to fix one. But unfortunately, it's already done, so I can't really go back in time. But anyway, I'll be posting more and more videos, so definitely hit the like button and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated, especially if you guys want more how-to videos on any Hyosung bike, because these bikes I've heard are all very similar, but they're all very different from other bikes. So.
And you can catch me creeping on the low, looter riding solo beat. beating the block.